today's webinar is hosted by Robert Curry. He will no doubt inspire you all. He's the Director of Global Business at eWeb Marketing, Australia's top online marketing agency. He has also just recently launched his best-selling book, Email Marketing That Sells Products. He is also known for unusual marketing tactics that gets results, so I'm very much looking forward to hearing what he has to say. So let's pass the microphone over. Welcome, Robert.
Thanks, Sarah, for having me.
Excellent. Now, just to start off, Robert, just to let you know, and I'm sure you are aware, we've actually had a lot of questions come throughout the registration process over the past 2 weeks, and it's very obvious that email marketing is a really broad area that people are very interested in. So what are some common questions that you do get around this topic?
Well, Sarah, some of the most common questions that came through the webinar responses are very common to what we get all the time. And the main ones that people are asking are, how do you get your emails opened in the first place? A lot of people also ask, when's the best time of day to send an email? And another very common one is that people want to know how you can do email marketing without annoying your list. And the final one that we get all the time is, how do you defibrillate a stale list? And how do you bring a stale list back to life?
That sounds very interesting and clinical almost.
Yeah, well, I coined the term defibrillation because it's kind of like you've got to perform CPR on your list if you're sending emails where no one opens them up.
Great. All right, before we get started, let's just launch a few polls to get to know our audience a little bit better, and that will help you, Robert, in talk about. So the first question is just to get an idea out there, how big is your list? And we are talking to your email database list at the moment specifically. So is it 0 to 100? Perhaps you're over the 100 mark and just under the 1,000 mark. And then we keep going up to over 100,000. So Robert, just while people are answering this, just to get a bit of an insight, what's an average size list, say, for just say, for example, for a B2B company?
Yeah, we see them mostly at more that 1 to 10,000 type of mark.
Yep.
And if people have got more than a 10,000 person list, they're doing quite well.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, anyone over 100,000, you're doing really well.
Great.
So it'd be interesting to see how the results come through.
Yeah, and it looks like you're quite right there as I share the results. We've got 38% around the 1 to 10,000 mark.
Yeah, so you'll find that when most businesses start getting serious about capturing emails, you'll get to that 1 to 10,000 mark. And then to really get to the next level and crack that 10,000 barrier, you need to be quite strategic and quite aggressive in capturing names and email addresses.
Great. Now we're just going to go and expand on that. So how active is your list? And there has been a bit of a cut-off here. So the first one is, you don't have a list, so why are you even asking us this question? That's A, for those of you who don't have a list at the moment. B, the list is a little bit stale. C, the list is lukewarm, most people are not really responsive. And D, my list is active, like a hot potato.
Yeah, and Sarah, you can tell if someone's got an active list by asking a couple of questions of yourself, like, does your list respond when you send them an email, or do they attend your events when you ask them to, or if you send a link through, do they click on the link? Or do they buy from you if you put an offer through? So those are the kind of things that you can work out how active your list is.
So you then say that tracking and reporting on your emails is hugely important to determine this sort of stuff? Yeah,
it's key, yeah. So I live and breathe by my analytics. And, every time I send out an email, I'm kind of glued to the computer screen for the next hour.
Please open.
Yeah, it's not the most productive use of my time, but it gets pretty addictive when you get into it a lot.
Great. And there's an overwhelming response here, so we've got 56% for C.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, lukewarm. So, I mean, that means that most people aren't responding to what you send out, but only a small percentage are. And today we'll go through some strategies to help you get that list more active and to defibrillate it, as I like to say.
Excellent.
Okay, so just a few things I wanted to cover before I got started. Overall, quite simply, this is some of the best information about email marketing on the internet. And in all the years that I've been doing email marketing, I've distilled the best things I've learned into this short webinar. I also teach an advanced executive mastermind where you learn this stuff in more detail, but I'll get to that a bit later. So I just wanted to let you know to get ready for the ride. Now, as Sarah mentioned, over the weekend I launched a #1 best-selling book on Amazon over the weekend, and it was pretty exciting. I was building up to it for 2 months, and I built a lot of hype with my email list before the book was launched. And you can see the only promotion I did was email marketing to get the book to being a #1 bestseller. And so, I mean, that's a pretty good example of how you can use email marketing to sell products. And for the next 24 hours, it's actually on free promo through Amazon. So instead of paying $10, you can buy yourself some nice lunch instead of that, and you can download it for free, which is good. So I've got the link there. It's ewebmarketing.com.au/Kindle book to get your free download of the book. So if we look at the next slide, I want to talk about who this webinar is for. So, you looked at the title and it was Email Marketing Pro Tips and Advanced Tactics. So you'll need a list of at least 1,000 people for these techniques to work because you're going to be testing and trying different things. The other thing about email marketing is that it's not for the faint-hearted. So I'm going to show you some tactics today that aren't mainstream, and you will need some guts and the authority to be able to implement and execute the tactics I'm going to show today. A lot of people ask me what's the biggest challenge with email marketing. And the biggest challenge that most people have with email marketing is actually getting your emails opened in the first place. This is a big one. If your emails aren't getting opened, that means that everything you've done before is a complete waste of time. So you spent all this time, all this effort, all this money getting a beautiful email designed. You've tested it on all the different platforms. You've got approval from the boss to send it out. You've gone back and forth. You test it one more time to make sure it's working. And then finally, after all that, you send it out. You take a deep breath. You go grab a glass of water or a cup of coffee. And then you come back to your desk and you look at your stats. And it's a bummer. The open rate's crap. It sucks. You spend all this time planning and strategizing and designing and testing, and nobody even opened up your email in the first place. So is it any wonder why so many people are giving up on email marketing and saying that it's too hard? And today, my goal is to fix that for you. You're going to learn what subject line works best and what's the best way to compel people to open up your emails. I mean, email marketing gives us our highest return on investment, and your list of customer email addresses is probably one of the most valuable assets in your business. It might even be the most valuable asset in your business. I mean, if you're looking at most information services businesses, they haven't got many hard assets anymore. Like you don't own a factory, you don't own a warehouse, you don't own any stock. Your asset is your customer base and your intellectual property. So I mean, with us at eWeb Marketing, our building could evaporate tomorrow, but as long as we had our intellectual property about online marketing and our mailing list, our business could continue on without a hitch. And the reason why I like email marketing so much is because it's got such a small fixed cost, but a huge upside. Now, in my opinion, the greatest online marketing tool ever created is the email autoresponder. Never before have you been able to have a personal communication instantly with so many people around the world. And the only cost you have with email marketing is the monthly fee that you pay for your email platform. And for our business, we pay a few $100 a month and that's it. But I mean, if you're one of those people with the smaller list, you might only have to pay like $5 a month or $10 a month. So when you're only paying $10 a month and it costs you the same no matter how many emails you send out. Like if you send out one email a month or one email a week or one email a day, it costs you the same. You could get 1,000 leads a month or 0 leads a month and it still costs you the same. It costs you the same whether your open rate's 10% or 50% or 0%. So the way that I see it is that you owe it to yourself and you owe it to your company to get serious about email marketing and to invest the time and the effort to learn how to do it properly. Learn how to write a great subject line. Learn how to get a response back when you send an email. Learn how to read your desk back to life. And today you're going to get some of the answers and you'll get the rest of the answers in our advanced masterminds. So let me tell you why I like email marketing so much. I've got a quote here from our friends at ExactTarget, and this is why I love email marketing so much. It's because people are addicted to checking their email, and you can and you should use this to your advantage. So if you look at this quote from ExactTarget, when I wake up in the morning, I turn my computer on and I immediately log into both of my email accounts. They remain open all day. Now, I know a lot of people who are exactly like this because I'm one of them. What about you, Sarah?
Well, I'm not more so getting up and turning on my computer. I've just got it on my iPhone. So I think that's even worse.
I think you're worse. Yeah. So, I mean, maybe whoever's on the line now, if you go in the chat box and let me know yes or no, do you check your email first thing in the morning when you wake up? Are you like me and Sarah? Yeah.
Bad.
Yeah. Let's have a look. Yep, absolutely, yes, I do. Yep, obsessed, yes, yes, yes. Like, I think we've already got 20 responses in a few seconds. Yep, before I brush my teeth. Yep.
Yeah.
I've got one no. So, look, these stats are consistent with what the research says from ExactTarget. And ExactTarget's research showed that 58% of online consumers say that their first online activity in the morning is checking their email. So write that down. 58% of people check their email first thing in the morning. And that's what I would call an addiction. And that's why email marketing is so good and why you need to get good at it. So email marketing is a numbers game. And I'd like to do some maths. Here's the numbers that matter when you become a serious email marketer. Okay, so the first thing you look at is your list size. That's just how many people you've got subscribed to your list. Then you want to look at your open rate. How many people actually open the email when you send it through to them? The click-through rate is, in every email that you send through, you should have a link for people to click on, whether that's to get more information, to read a blog post, to buy something, to inquire, to opt in. You want to have a link for people to click on because people are pretty lazy. They're not going to go into their browser and type in the URL themselves or search something themselves. They just want to just click one button and get everything they need. And so when you multiply all those numbers out, you get your hits at the end of it. So if you had a list size of 10,000, 1 in 5 people opened it, then 1 in 20 people click through, you're going to get 100 hits. So if we look at the math and we take it to the next level and you make small incremental improvements in each area, so if you increase everything by 10%, which isn't too hard to do, if you do the things I'm going to show you today, you get to 121 hits, which is a good improvement. And then if you do another incremental improvement, you get to 12,000, a 24% open rate and 6% click-through rate, you get 172 hits. So you can see that email marketing is one of those games that's quite exponential. And if you just make marginal improvements in each area, you can get some massive results. So you've almost doubled your hits by just small incremental improvements in each area. So I want to let you know a bit about some of my best results that I've achieved with email marketing. I first started doing email marketing in 2006. And I started working at a multinational copier company. And the company gave me a list of 100 private educational colleges to sell to. Now here's the thing with this list. None of these colleges had ever heard about us before or ever done any business with us before. But I did have their name, phone number, job title, email address, and I did have permission to email them. Now if you think about my position, I certainly was not bothered to cold call 100 CEOs. Like, no way. That's like hard work. I didn't want to do that. And I didn't have a marketing budget, so I couldn't send them anything in the post. And my only option was to email them. So I decided to learn everything that I could about email marketing and then get my hands dirty and actually do a campaign. And the result was pretty phenomenal. If you fast forward a few weeks later, I sent out a series of emails to this cold list of 100 principals and CEOs. And the amazing thing is that I got 28 out of the 100 to come to a 3-hour executive briefing at our office. And at the end of that executive briefing, I closed over $100,000 worth of revenue immediately. It was the most successful marketing campaign ever done in the company's history. And it was all because of email marketing. So, I mean, there's so much upside, and it's so easy to do really well with email marketing once you know how to do it.
How did you, in regards to that with permission, and Beth has just also spoke to this,
yep.
If the email address is on someone's website, do you still need permission, or what are the best ways to gauge permission from people?
So the easiest way to gauge permission is, well, first of all, the strongest way is if they go to your website and they opt in. They put in their name and email address in regards to something that you give them for free.
Yep.
Okay, so it might be a free report, a free offer, something like that. There's sometimes people can do co-registration. So they'll actually opt in for something, and then if you look at the privacy policy, it's like, hey, we may send you an email, and any of our partners might send you an email. Okay, so that's called co-registration. And the third way you can do it is actually sending to someone else's list. So someone else might have built up a really good list of email addresses, and you've got a product that's complementary to them, so you're not in competition, and it's something that can add value to their list. And then you can send an email through them to their list that way.
So it's not necessarily if it's on their website, like Beth is asking. That's not not?
The laws are different in every country, so I don't want to give advice because what you're allowed to do here and what you're allowed to do in other countries is different. Look, there is inferred permission with the current law. So if someone puts your email address on their website, there is inferred permission that you can send them an email, because why would you put your email address saying contact us if you don't want people to send you an email? But it's certainly not permission to send them hundreds and hundreds of spam emails without their permission. Definitely not. So you just need to be careful about how you approach it and be tasteful. And also respect people's wishes if they wish to unsubscribe.
Yeah.
So just in terms of, does this work for other people? Because sure, it's worked for me, but just in the last couple of days, we've already had 18 positive reviews on the Amazon site with our book and how people have applied it for their business. The average rating is 4.7 out of 5, so people are taking this and kind of running with it and doing really well already. I want to talk about defibrillating mailing lists. This was the hottest topic, and this was the most that people asked about in the question, Sarah, so I thought it'd be good to spend a bit of time on it. There was nothing more exciting than taking a dead list that no one expects you to do anything with, and then using your expertise to get a response from the list. Using your expertise to send out emails and getting your customer list to pull out their wallet and to do business with you. So I personally manage all of the email marketing for eWeb, and before I came along to eWeb, they never had any one person responsible for the list, and the list was becoming stale quite fast. I think, Sarah, you and I were talking about this before this webinar started, you've kind of taken on the same responsibility for your company. You've kind of taken on the list and you've had to work with it. And so when I came on board to eWeb, I had no choice, but I had to defibrillate that list and fast. I had to, I call it CPR. I had to resuscitate the list, make sure that list started to open our emails and start engaging with us. And now we're getting open rates of 25% on average, sometimes even up to 50% for a really good email. And our click-through rates are 15 to 30%, which is way above the industry average. And that's going from a stale list. We'd hardly ever emailed these people for 10 years before I came along. So the results you can get quite often depend on the list that you've inherited. But even if you've got a stale list, you can still jumpstart it and you can still get solid results. So I hope you've got a pen and paper ready, because I want you to answer a couple of questions. I want you to work out, how did you get the names on your list in the first place? Because that could be a reason why your list is dead. Did you go to a trade show 5 years ago and you ran a competition to win a free phone and, that's how you got your email list? Or what does your list even expect to receive from you? Do they go to your website and say, hey, I want to get an email from you every week with your latest tips and offers and special deals? And what do you actually send to your list in the first place? Are you just going to are you spamming them once every 6 months with some random offer, without even engaging them before that? Are you sending them quality content? Are you adding any value to them? And the final question I'd like you to answer is, how would you rate your relationship with your list? Do you feel that you've got a personal connection there? Do people from your list send you an email back? If you send them an email, do they reply back and say, thanks for sending that? Or do they comment on things? Or do they engage with you? What's your relationship like? Or is it kind of like throwing a pebble into a big ocean? Nothing happens, a small ripple, a small percentage of people open up your emails and that's it. So if you've gone through this thought process, you should have an aha moment here. Okay? So if there's a disconnect between what your list expects to receive from you and what you actually send to your list, that's the reason why you've got a dead list. For example, if your list expects you to send something once a month and you start sending something every day, so 30 times a month, and they want it once a month, then naturally you're going to struggle. They're going to unsubscribe from your emails. They're not going to read your emails. They're going to go to junk. Now, if your list expects you to send free tips, if you said you're going to send them the best and latest news and tips, but all you send them is spam and offers all the time, well, then naturally you're going to struggle, of course.
What are your thoughts around that on asking your email database what they actually want, as opposed to trying to guess? Do you believe in just asking people up front and honestly whether they want to receive invitations to webinars, whether they want to receive, tips and tricks? What are your thoughts on that?
There's a guy that released a book called The Platform just recently, a few months ago. His name's Michael. I can't remember his surname, but he's a best-selling author as well, and he actually sent an email to his list and said, look, I'm sending you an email every day with tips, and to be honest, it takes me a lot of time to put these tips together. So I just wanted to get your feedback. Are you happy getting these once a day, or would you prefer me to send them less often, 3 times a week, or once a month? You tell me how much email you want to get. And the overwhelming response was they wanted to receive stuff 3 times a week, not every day. And some people even reply back saying, look, Michael, I love your stuff, but the problem is that it's just too much stuff. Like, I've got time to read a big, solid article every day, but a few times a week I could handle that. And I even feel bad because there's always good information, I can't get around to it. So Michael's like, cool, well, that's all right. What I'll do now is just send them 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And hey, that's less work for me. It suits me just fine, and you guys are happier.
And you're engaging with your audience at the same time, aren't you?
Yeah, you're asking them.
I posted a link in the bottom down there.
Michael Hyatt. Yeah, that's him.
That goes directly to that site, and he talks a little bit about getting your message out. So.
Yeah, and I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg. Yeah, there's lots of other things you need to do to defibrillate a list. And I cover them in more detail in the executive mastermind, but defibrillating list is something that's really important to do if you haven't done it already, because you've got all these people that have opted in to hear stuff from you, and for some reason it's just gone wrong. And you need to dig deep and understand what's gone wrong there and how to fix it up.
Yep.
So I think it's poll time again, Sarah.
Yes. Okay, so we just got another poll for you, the last one for today. Now, this is just more of a question, and so you've actually got the answers up on the slide. So which list do you think would respond best? Would it be a random list of people from the last 10 years who have inquired at some stage, some who have bought from you, and some who used to buy from you? Or B, do you think the list that would respond best would be those people from the last 2 years who have inquired about your services? Or C, a segmented list of people who have ticked a box in the last 30 days saying, send me your latest tips and offers. So A, B, or C.
Okay, so I'm very interested to see the results from this one, Sarah.
Right. We've got an overwhelming response for one of them. But
okay, I hope there's one that I'm hoping.
Okay, here we go. Let's close the poll and then share those results with everyone to see.
Okay, well, it's not as comprehensive as I thought it would be, Sarah. 54% said that it'd be a segmented list from the last 30 days, and that's what it would be, because if you look at the recency and how soon people have opted in, that's what's going to be their hottest. And like over time, people get a bit stale with your emails, and that's why it's always important to keep your list happening. I mean, like, people from the last 2 years who inquire about your services, yeah, sure, like, but if someone's inquired 2 years ago about your service and haven't brought anything, they might have brought from your competitor already, or they might just be people that are tire kicking. And then, look, a random people from the last 10 years, well, that's what I started with when I was at eWeb, and that took a lot of defibrillating to get into a good, solid list that we have today. So really, a segmented list of people who opted in to receive your stuff in the last 30 days is going to give you the biggest result by far. Okay, so let's get into relationship. And I spoke about this a bit before, and I wanted to get into a bit more detail now. So we've seen that most people have either a stale list or a lukewarm list, as we saw from the poll results. And look, having this stale or lukewarm list is a pretty scary place to be. I mean, you'll feel a bit lost, and you'll feel a bit unsure of your own email marketing expertise and how good you are at this. I mean, if you look at a stale list in your autoresponder, so if you just got this big list of names in your autoresponder and your CRM, it could be a bit like looking at a blank canvas. You're like, far out, got all these people here and we just don't know what to do with them. But on the flip side, if you've got an active list, it's like playing with one of those old pinball machines. It's like having a few extra balls in there. So, I mean, your list hangs off every word that you say. They're eager to do business with you. Like when you send an email, it's like instantaneously you get all this good response from your list. And it's so exciting once you've got an active list happening. Then everyone thinks you're an email marketing superhero. But it's the steps that you put in place before that to get your list to being an active list. So most people that have a stale list are making a big mistake with their list. Most people think of their list as a bunch of names and email addresses who you can just chuck some stuff at and they'll buy some stuff from you. That's how they think of it. Like, I've got 10,000 names and email addresses. I'm just going to chuck some emails at them. I'm going to just tell them to buy some stuff and see what happens. And that's really the wrong way of thinking about it. Like, every person on your list is an individual, and they've got their own fears and frustrations, and they've got their own dreams and aspirations. You know, they've got families, they've got mortgages, they might be struggling to make ends meet. You know, they might go to work, they might be bored, they might have a boss they don't like, They might be worried about how their kids are going at school. They're a real individual human being. It's not just a name and email address that you just chuck emails at and chuck offers at. Here's the other problem that people make. They talk to their list as a group of people. So it's like talking to a big audience, and that's the wrong way to approach it. Everybody reads their emails by themselves at their computer. So I really recommend writing this down. Everybody reads their emails by themselves at their computer. So when you're writing your emails, you need to write your emails as if you're talking to one person at a time. It's a personal one-to-one communication. You don't talk to your audience as a big group of people. You don't treat them as a group. So write that down. You're always talking to your audience one person at a time. And that's a key thing. Like if you look at any of the emails that I send through, they're always a personal email. I'll be like, hey, Sarah, just wanted to let you know. I write it exactly the same way as if I was going to write you an individual email. It's just sending to a larger group of people. And just by doing that, that could almost alone turn around your email marketing efforts. So let's talk about 5 rules to get your emails opened. And if this was the number one question that came through, how do you get your emails opened? And I mean, if your customers aren't opening up your email, then everything else you've done is a waste of time. Now, I deliberately didn't put these 5 rules in this slide. And it wasn't a mistake, because I wanted to make sure that you're listening. I want to make sure that you actually write the 5 rules down. So here's the 5 rules. I hope you've got your pen and paper ready. Rule number 1, do whatever it takes to get them to open the email. So rule 1 is do whatever it takes to get them to open the email. Rule number 2, if in doubt, refer back to rule number 1. Okay, so if in doubt, you do whatever it takes to get them to open the email. Rule number 3 is be fanatical about tracking your open rates. I'm a fanatic and almost obsessive about our subject lines and our open rates. So after every email that I send, I'm addicted to our Office autopilot system, our autoresponder. I'm glued to the screen. I'm looking at what subject line performs best. And I'm always amazed at how many people break this rule. So as I've been speaking with people over the last few months about email marketing and helping them, I'm finding that when I ask them, what's your open rate? They don't even know what their open rate is. So how can you get better at email marketing if no one's even opening your emails in the first place, and you don't know that people aren't even opening your emails in the first place? So once you start getting serious about being a solid email marketer and actually making some revenue from doing email marketing and making sales and getting leads for your sales team, you've got to be fanatical about open rates. Because when you start tracking and measuring your open rates, you know what works. You know what your audience wants. You know how to engage. Rule number 4, this is a big one. Most people are bored at work. So rule number 4 is that most people are bored at work. And just remember that when you're sending your emails out. So you want to make it fun. You want to use curiosity, bold statements, controversy, facts, test results. Now, I've found that these 5 topics have been the best ones to open my open rates, to increase them. I mean, because people just like to know stuff. Like one of my most successful email campaigns was, the results of a marketing experiment that I tried. I tried a random marketing experiment where I sent out 4 subject lines that were completely crazy. Like one of them was hola. Like I think that was a Spanish word.
I remember receiving that email, Robert.
Yeah, and it's just so powerful. Like when you try different stuff, and the more powerful thing about trying that thing was that showing the results of the experiment at the end of it. And I think on one of the emails I sent out, I said, look, just hit reply and let me know which email you thought did the best. Like which one do you think won the experiment? And that was the most inundated I've ever been with emails in my whole life. Like we got flooded. I even had people calling the office trying to guess which one was the best. Like, I mean, how would you get people calling the office after you send an email out? It's just because people are bored at work. And once you use curiosity and bold statements and test results, controversy, that kind of thing, that's what works really well with email marketing. But it has to be aligned to your brand as well. So if your brand is like kind of a corporate, solid, kind of dry kind of place, and you want to start sending out like hola in Spanish in the email subject lines, I'm not sure if it's going to be congruent with your brand. So you have to probably think of something else. But yeah, if you're a fun, edgy kind of brand, that stuff works really well.
Just on that, Talonya is asking, so do you send all test emails to the same list or to segmented lists?
What I do, before I send an email out to our whole list, I'll send 2 different emails to a group of 500 people each. Then we'll look at the results, and then I just send the winner out to the rest of the list. So sometimes you can get overcomplicated with testing, which I don't do. So I just do 2 small tests of 500 each, and then I'll pick the winner. And I'll do 2 different subject lines and 2 different body copies.
Okay.
So sometimes I'll see that one has a better open rate, but the other one has a better click-through rate. So I just mix and match A and B and put the best subject line with the best body copy. Yeah, that's what works really well. Okay, rule 5, break any of the above rules if it helps you get a better open rate. So there you go. Any rule can always be broken. Yeah, these are some guidelines that work well for me, but hey, you might do something different that works really well and go with it. You know, you don't have to just use my rules. That's just what works for me. And what doesn't work? So obviously there's a lot more to this topic as well than just 5 simple rules. But I wanted to give you some tips to get started today. And look, I'd love to see you at the mastermind where I have time to give you all the answers, because you really need a full day to go through this stuff. I mean, you can look at stuff like the from line. You know, should it be from a person or a company? You can look at the length of the subject line. Like, should it be a short, like a hey kind of thing, or should it be a long subject line? You know, what's the optimal length for people to open your email? We can look at, you know, should you include or not include the subject's name in the subject line? So do you say like, hey Sarah, good deal for you today, or do you just write good deal for you today? And there's lots of different things you need to look at when you're doing it. The other thing to be interested in is anybody clicking on your emails? So you start with the open rate, and you've got to get people to open your emails in the first place. I can actually, before I go to that, I can see how do you check your open rate. So that's something that you can look for in your autoresponder. So if you're using like a MailChimp or a campaign monitor or an Office Autopilot, after you send your email out, you'll be able to check your open rate.
I think most email marketing systems really allow you to access a report section, or they should anyway, and within there they should give you all the statistics.
Yeah. So the second statistic to look at after your open rate is the click-through rate. And this is another common question. How do you get more people to click on your emails and get them to take some action? And at the end of the day, a good open rate is essential, right? But if nobody clicks on your email once they've opened it, then you haven't achieved anything. Like, who cares if you get a 100% open rate but a 0% click-through rate? Like, that means you still get no new business, and that's not going to do you any good. Yeah, I mean, your email is going to get deleted and you've forgotten about 5 minutes later because they've got 200 other emails to look at. So it's very easy to make the mistake of thinking you've done well just because you've got a great open rate. I mean, you get all excited because all these people opened your email, but the problem is that no one's coming to your event that you're hosting, or no one's brought you a special offer, or nobody joined your competition. So it's kind of like, you know, getting your email open but not quick is kind of like if people saw you ad in the newspaper but didn't inquire. It's the same thing. And unless you're Coca-Cola or Nine or McDonald's, like, that's not going to do you any good. You don't care about brand exposure. Yeah, that's brand exposure is for Coca-Cola, you know, and big brands like that. If you're a small or medium business, you need people to inquire today. You know, you're not just going to get your brand out there. That's not going to do anything for you. So you're probably more interested in getting sales today, and that's why you need a good click-through rate. And it's not the open rate that's the most important. It's actually the actual click-through rate that's the most important. So, you know, I mean, you've got to look at different things like, does long emails work better or short emails work better for your list? You've got to look at, does plain text emails work better or HTML emails work better for your list? You know, do you use fancy images and videos to embed in your emails, or should you just have it nice and boring and plain text and a text link? So, I mean, that's the kind of stuff that we go into a lot more detail in a mastermind, but that's some things that you need to be really aware of when you're doing your emails, like what works best for your list and what's going to be the most important to work with. So this is a bit lighthearted. How would you sell 800 dog baths? And this is an interesting and it's very relevant to email marketing. Have you heard this story before, Sarah?
No, I haven't.
Oh, good. Well, you'll like it. So a few months ago, a random guy called up and he started selling a business selling dog baths on the internet 3 years ago. And his business hadn't worked out, so he wanted to exit the business, and he had 800 dog baths left still to sell. And he's like, hey, can you help me sell these 800 dog baths? I've got to get rid of them. I'm like, who's going to take 800 dog baths? You know, like, who would want 800 portable dog baths anyway? Like, how are you going to sell this? And then I thought, this poor guy, like, he's had this stock sitting there for 3 years. Like, can you imagine dedicating 3 years of your life trying to sell dog baths on the internet and you can't sell them? And he really needs the money. Like, so how am I going to help this guy? I can't just say, get lost, or I can't help you. I've got to try and help him. So what I did was I wrote an email. I sent it to a carefully selected list of people who could potentially buy it. And within 24 hours from just one email, I sold out the whole 800 dog baths. So this guy was trying to sell his dog bath for 3 years. And in 24 hours, in one email, I sold the whole 800 dog baths for him. So the moral of the story, you can sell anything through email marketing. Even dog baths.
Tips and tricks can you give that you may have used in that email that you maybe wouldn't have used for a different product? I know dog bath is quite a unique product.
Yeah.
What did you do in that email to try to get them sold, I guess?
That's the $1 million question, isn't it? At a high level, like what I did, I spoke to a few different pet shops, okay, and vets and things like that. So I worked out, hey, why would these guys want to buy a dog bath for? What would go through people's mind when they're buying a dog bath? And then once you spoke to a few people, there was some common things that came out. So I made sure I attacked those common points in the email. And the email was pretty heartfelt. So I gave the whole story about how the guy started the business 3 years ago and he tried really hard to sell them. And look, they're a great product, but he just wasn't a good marketer. He just didn't know how to promote the product. And look, he was closing down the business and needed some help selling them. And look, it's a good deal. They're normally selling at this price, but today because they're going away, you get a cheap price, and there's not that many left. Even though 800 sounds like a lot, like one person took the whole 800 in the end, so it's pretty good. Yeah, so I mean, like when you think of it in that way, and you send a really heartfelt email that's going to people who could potentially buy it, that's what works. But if I sent just a random email with like a photo of it and saying, hey, buy 800 dog baths to like 1 million people who weren't interested, then that wouldn't have worked at all. So sometimes it's not the quantity of your list, it's the quality of your list. And making a really clear offer.
Alan's asked if he can see the dog bath email. You don't have it on hand, do you?
No, I don't. Yeah, I don't have it on me. But Alan, if you, I'll have my details in the webinar, so feel free to get in touch with me and I'll run it through you. Yeah, but it's not something that I can, it's for a client, so I can't actually show it publicly, but I can show you some screenshots and stuff like that. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so getting people to register for a webinar. This is a big one. I don't normally include this in my presentations, but Sarah asked me, she actually banged me over the table and said, you've got to include this in the webinar. So this is fresh content that I've never shared before. And our process for getting people to register for a webinar in the first place consists of 5 different things. The first thing we do is to have a good webinar title. And the webinar title really needs to arouse curiosity. So, I mean, the best webinar we ever held was where I interviewed a friend of mine who built up an email list of over 1 million people in just 4 months. And I mean, that's a pretty interesting topic. Like nearly every business wants to grow their list. And for someone to grow their list to over 1 million people in just 4 months, that's pretty interesting. And a lot of people wanted to find out about how he did that. So if you could have a really bad presenter but a great title, and that would be enough to get a big attendance for your webinar. So the second thing is the webinar presenter. So the more authority someone has, the better you'll pull. I mean, if you've got Tony Robbins or Richard Branson on the line, you could just write a plain text email saying, hey, I'm interviewing Tony Robbins tomorrow, join, here's the link. And you'll get a massive attendance rate without doing anything special. We always send at least 3 emails to our own list for any webinar that we're hosting. A lot of people might say that's a lot of emails about one event, but you know what? People might miss the first email that you send out. It might just get lost in the spam. And then the second email, that might be the first one that they actually get about it. And then the last email is just a reminder, that for the last people who haven't registered yet, to register. So you need at least 3 emails to get a decent response. And we'll find that on the second email, we'll get equally as many registrations as we did for the first email, which is pretty interesting. Like, we send the same email twice pretty much, and then if we didn't send that second email, we would have missed out on double the attendance. So that's something interesting. Do you change the emails up in that you send? I know with a lot of our clients that we work with for the email marketing for the events, having a last chance to register email is something that really resonates with their audience. Do you change the subject lines each time you send it? Yeah, I do. Okay. Yeah. So the last one's always like a last chance kind of thing. And you might have different subject lines, so it's kind of appealing to different benefits of the webinar. Okay. Yeah. The fourth one that's really powerful is using other people's lists to promote. And I mean, yeah, like if you send to my friends Daniel's list of 1 million people to promote your webinar, you're going to get a lot more people than if you just send it to your own list of 1,000 people. You know, so if you can find other lists that are kind of complementary to your list, that works really well. Actually, just saying, in our mastermind, I had a number of people there last time, and people actually did business together in the mastermind group. So they're like, hey, what if I send an email to your list and you send one to my list and we can trade? And like, that's pretty cool, yeah? Like, I didn't really intend for that to happen, but it kind of works out that way. So like, there's a lot of businesses that you can partner with that would be very, very happy to help you out.
And do you think even, I'm just thinking for some webinars, if you've got people sponsoring your webinars, maybe tying that in so it's relevant to your actual product or service?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So you can look for sponsors that are relevant to your webinar, and you know, even the guest presenter. So if you've got a special guest coming in, you should be getting them to promote to their list as well. I mean, you may as well get them to leverage their list. That's the least they can do for you, really. Yeah, so there's lots of different ways you can do it. It's all about just being a bit creative.
Yep.
I mean, like, you know, we had at the mastermind we had an online clothing business, and they partnered with like an energy switching company. Yeah, they're looking to do a partnership there, which is pretty cool. Like, hey, you know, if we can't save you money on your energy bill, we'll give you a free voucher for a clothing company. Like, so there's lots of different ways you just got to be creative, and people are really open to helping you out. And the final thing that works really well for us is Facebook ads. Yeah, we do really, really well with Facebook ads. We've almost turned it into a bit of a science, you know, like in terms of how much we're doing it. So they're really cheap and they're very effective and very targeted. Okay, so we've got a question here about this is from Adam. What about getting people who register to actually come into the webinar and view the webinar? And that was perfect timing because that's the topic of my next slide. So getting people to turn up for a webinar. Now, the average turn up for a webinar is about 20 to 30%. So if you have a webinar and you might send one reminder email, you get about 20 or 30 out of every 100 to actually show up. And I don't think people deliberately register and don't want to turn up. I think it's just the fact that other things come up, or they might have a meeting on, or they might have forgotten about your webinar. So our attendance at webinar is over 50%, which is huge. Like, I mean, that's double the amount of people that you'd normally get. And that's not something trivial. Like, you're actually getting in front of double the people that you normally would get in front of. That means double the sales, double the leads, double the revenue. It's huge. So how do we get people to turn up for a webinar at 50% or more? Well, we do 3 things. Pretty simple. We do mass communication. Like, they hear from us 7 times before the webinar starts. And not just 7 reminders. We don't say reminder, 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 reminder. Like, that's pretty annoying. You don't want to say reminder 7 times. That's not what you want to do. What we do is that we send 5 reminder emails, but each one has a different topic. So the first one will be obviously with thank you and here's the details. The second one might be, hey, it's just 48 hours to go, but if you've got any questions, make sure you send them through. Then the next one might be, hey, we've got this workbook for you to follow along with. Make sure you download the workbook. So each time it's subtly reminding them about the webinar, but we're not actually saying, hey, don't forget about the webinar each time. It's just different things. And then we also send the 2 SMS text messages. That works really well. And we send one 24 hours before the webinar, and we send one 1 hour before the webinar because things come up. You know, your webinar might be at 9 a.m. and then their boss calls them in at 8 a.m. You know, so you want to make sure that they get a text message so they know that in 1 hour time the webinar's going to happen. Yeah. So they're the main things that we do to get people to show up. Yeah, so I want to cover a couple of advanced strategies, and then, you know, hopefully we've got a little bit of time at the end for some more questions. So I want to talk about segmentation, and our list is extremely segmented at eWeb. So we've got a different segmentation of who came to what webinar, who's brought what product from us, who's on what service with us. And we send different sequences of emails to all the different segments. So, for example, like if you came to our email marketing webinar, we're not going to, if we were on the same webinar next month, we're not going to send that same webinar to you because you've already come to it last month. But we won't be shy to ask you to come to other events. You know, if we're running one on how to build your list, we'll invite you to that one. Don't worry about that. You know, and if someone buys one of our training products, or if they come to like our mastermind, we're not going to send them an email the next month saying, hey, we've got this great mastermind next month, like, because you've already come to it. Like, why would we keep sending you the same offer for the same thing? One of my friends in the US brought a car from a car dealership on the Sunday. So on the Monday, they got an email saying, hey, we've got specials on cars, come in and buy a car. It's like they just brought the car the day before from that same dealership. It's like, what's going on there? You know, like you can't do that to people. It's just really silly. Like if you think about it in real life, like if someone brought something off you today and then you call them tomorrow and say, hey, you want to buy the same thing? Like it's just stupid. Why would you do that kind of thing? So the interesting thing about segmentation is that no one's going to call you up and say, gee, thanks for segmenting me. Thanks for not sending me stupid stuff that you should be segmenting. But no one will even notice what you're doing. What's going to happen, though, is that your open rates are going to improve because you're sending emails to people who want to receive them. And you'll make more sales, you'll have a happier list, you'll have a better relationship with your list, and your paying customers won't get annoyed with you. And that's why segmentation is so important. So I want to talk about one more strategy, and it's about advanced email strategies and what I call the better off test. So people should be better off after reading your email than they were before reading your email. So write that one down. The better off test is people should be better off after reading your email than they were before reading your email. I mean, if you've ever written an email that sucked and no one took any action on it, I could almost certainly say that you probably disobeyed the better off test. So it's a big one. And it's something that we definitely look at if you came along to the mastermind session. So, I mean, it's up to you what you want to do next. You can keep doing the same thing as you've always done. You can do it yourself, or you can look at getting some help. I mean, a common objection that I get is that a lot of people don't have time to come to a mastermind. And that's cool. I mean, if you haven't got a full day to spare on email marketing, then that's fine. That kind of thing happens. What you can do is that we have hot seat sessions at the mastermind group. So you'll get your own half an hour of time one-on-one with me, and the whole group's around there also trying to help you grow your business. So, I mean, if you haven't got the time to come to the full day, you can just come for your half an hour session and kind of get grilled in the hot seat, get really strong action items for your area of your business, and then you can kind of go. But what we've found is that people learn even more from looking at other businesses that go on the hot seat. And you learn even more by trying to help them while they're in the hot seat because you can apply what's worked for your business and then show them what's worked. And what we also find at the mastermind is that, I mentioned this before, a lot of businesses do email deals with each other on the day. So like you'll talk to other business owners and other marketing managers and directors, and you'll do some deals to send emails to their list, and they'll send emails to your list, and it works really well. So yeah, so about the marketing mastermind, I'll be helping you write your campaign on the day, and you get 30 minutes in the hot seat, which is pretty cool. The hot seat's a lot of fun. I mean, what do you learn on the day? Well, there's so much that you learn. How do you get your emails opened? How do you get your emails clicked? When's the best time of the day to send an email? How often should you send emails? What's the best email marketing platform to use? How do you defibrillate a stale list? I mean, if you've got a stale list, that's a pretty scary place to be. Your boss or your manager's giving you the responsibility to take this stale list and do something with it. I mean, instead of throwing a small pebble into a big ocean and nothing happening, you can learn like throwing a big rock into a small pool, make a huge splash, and then when you send an email out, people actually take notice of it and they take action. I'll show you how to find out if your emails are even being delivered and if your emails are being slammed by the spam filters. I mean, we had that problem at eWeb a while ago. Like every time we sent an email to a Gmail address, it kept bouncing back, and no one was opening the ones with the Gmail addresses. And I mean, a big percentage of the world is using Gmail, so we had to get that one fixed pretty fast, because otherwise we weren't going to be too successful. And so I'll make sure I'll show you how they don't get hammered by the spam filters.
We've got a few questions that we might just get to now, just before we close up. So, first of all, Amanda has asked whether or not it's possible to get a sample of any successful emails that you've done in the past. And like I said earlier, we do send out an email which has a recording within 48 hours. Would it be possible to get maybe 3 or 4 of the best emails that you send? I'm thinking the one that you were talking about earlier where you actually had here are the best subject lines, like that email.
Yeah.
We could include that in the follow-up email for everyone?
Absolutely. I'm happy to share, because everyone's taking their time out of their day today to spend some time with us. I'm more than happy to share that.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And just from Adam, so this is really in regards to the emails for webinars. So do you recommend including calendar entries and reminders with the invitations that you send? So add to calendar
Yeah, so you can have an add to calendar button.
Yep.
So that's fine. It's a little bit of custom programming to get it on there. So, I mean, if you're just getting started with webinars and email marketing, that's not the most important thing to put on there. But yeah, sure, like it's a value add. But I wouldn't actually. So a lot of people attach a calendar invite with an email.
Okay.
I think people get freaked out by that. It's like, hey, what the hell is this? So I'd have a little link to say, hey, add to calendar.
As opposed to an attachment.
As opposed to an attachment.
Yeah. Great. And in terms of open rates, we got a question earlier when the email went out. So obviously there's different opinions on everything. It does change depending on your product, where you're located. But what's industry standard for open rates these days?
Yeah, like you said, like it really depends on your industry and how old your list is, what they're getting, what they expect to be getting. Look, I would say that if you're getting anything less than 20% on a consistent basis, that means that 8 out of every 10 people aren't even opening your email up. So it means you're probably doing something wrong.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd say you'd want at least 20% open rate.
It just really reinforces that testing and making sure everything's right for your audience.
Yeah, I mean, if you've got an audience that doesn't want to get your stuff, then maybe the ones that aren't, we do this with our list. So if someone doesn't open or click an email within 90 days, we send them an email saying, hey, do you not even want to receive our stuff anymore? That's cool. If we've been bothering you, if you don't want to receive anything anymore, then that's fine. We'll just take off our list. But if you still want to keep receiving stuff, then click this link and we'll make sure that we keep sending you stuff. Okay. Yeah.
Great.
So Sarah, I might just put up a link for people to register for the mastermind, if that's all right.
Absolutely. And while I do that, if you just want to maybe let's talk to Kathleen's question. So what would be a successful click-through rate then, if we're talking about that?
I think a click-through rate of at least 5% is important to get.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, if you've got a click-through rate of less than 5%, that means that, look, 100 people are reading your email, like so they've opened your email up, and only 5 out of 100 are actually clicking on something.
Yeah.
So if you think about it, like you put 100 people in a room, they all read your email, and only 5 click. Like you want to be doing at least that. Yeah, if not 10% or better. I mean, the best ones I've ever had are 75%. But I mean, that's for really targeted and specific. So if you're sending general emails out to your whole list, you want at least 5 to 10%. Yeah, but you're not going to get 75% for a normal list. Yeah, unless it's really targeted.
Yeah, that would be incredible, wouldn't it?
Oh, it was incredible. Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Great. All right. Well, that's pretty much taken us up. Oh, sorry. One more question from Beth.
Yeah.
Anything written about emailing ethics? If we just
emailing ethics. Yeah, I'm not really sure what. Like, is she talking about spam or? Maybe, Beth, if you can send through a bit more detail about what you're looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. I think with ethics, I think it's just important to always think of what you would want to receive as well.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, like, in terms of buying a list, maybe she means that. So if you just buy, like, let's say 1,000 or 100,000 email addresses and you just send something to them, then that would be a definite no-go. So never, ever buy an email list. You can pay someone else to email to their list, right, if it's coming from them. So, like, let's say Redback has an email list of a lot of people who are interested in what we would sell. Like, we might work out a deal with you where we can send it to your list, but we wouldn't just buy the email addresses off Redback and then send them something from eWeb. Like, they'd be like, who's eWeb? So
probably more detrimental.
You get a lot of spam complaints. It might even be illegal in some countries to do that. So you have to check your local spam laws, because in Australia it definitely is, and I'm sure that it would be in many other countries as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's taken us up to the end of the webinar. So on behalf of Redback, thank you for joining and hosting today's webinar, Robert, and everyone else out there in webinar land. Thank you for joining the last webinar of the year. We'll be back next year with more fun and exciting topics that will no doubt inspire you all. So thanks to everyone for being part of this for 2012. Thanks for Robert for also hosting today's session. Like I said, upon completion of a satisfaction survey, you will actually receive an email within 48 hours containing a recording to the webinar and the additional resources that Robert has said that he'll send through. So thank you everyone once again. Enjoy the rest of your week, and I'll hand over to Robert for closing comments.
Okay, well, thanks very much. Look, just wanted to thank you all for being on the webinar today. Look, some of you want to take us a bit further and come along to the mastermind. We have 2 sessions. One's in Sydney and one's in Melbourne. Look, it's normally $1,997 to attend, and most people that come before I've actually paid that amount. But we've got a special deal because I've launched my new book. We've got 50% off for anyone that actually purchases the book. And, I mean, right now it's a free book, so it's even free to get it. And so it's just $997 to attend. And those are the 2 dates on the screen there, Monday the 10th in Sydney and in Melbourne, Wednesday the 12th. And to register, it's ewebmarketing.com.au/proto.
Excellent. Thanks, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, Sarah.